The most dangerous lie society tells you about personal growth is that it belongs exclusively to the young. We are conditioned to believe that the first 40 years of life are for building, and the next 40 are simply for surviving, maintaining, and slowly fading away. But if you look at life through the lens of human behavior psychology, you discover a much deeper, more liberating truth. Turning 40 is not the beginning of the end. It is the beginning of your second adulthood. In your 20s and 30s, your psychology was driven by external programming. You were driven by the biological need for survival, social status, and mating. Your behavior was dictated by what your parents, your bosses, and your peers expected of you. You accumulated obligations, titles, and masks. But when you cross 40, a profound psychological shift occurs. The old matrix of validation begins to crack. You look at the things you spent decades chasing, and you realize they cannot shield you from existential emptiness. Most people mischaracterize this phase as a midlife crisis. They think their mind is breaking down, but in reality, your mind is finally waking up. This is the exact moment where true personal growth actually begins. It is the phase where you stop living for the audience and start living for the soul. In this video, we will decode the hidden human behavior psychology of the mature mind. We will analyze why your brain changes after 40, and how you can leverage this evolution to achieve a level of personal growth that makes the second half of your life infinitely more powerful than the first. Welcome back to the laboratory of the mind. The evolution of INTELLICT to understand why personal growth after 40 is vastly superior. We must first look at the neural architecture of the brain. In our youth, our minds rely heavily on what psychologists call fluid intelligence. This is the raw processing speed, the ability to think fast, memorize data quickly, and solve abstract puzzles. Fluid intelligence peaks in your late 20s and then begins a slow, natural decline. If you measure your worth by how fast you can run on the corporate treadmill, you will eventually feel obsolete. But human behavior psychology reveals that as fluid intelligence fades, a new, far more lethal cognitive power takes its place. Crystallized intelligence. Crystallized intelligence is the accumulation of knowledge, complex pattern recognition, emotional vocabulary, and life data. Younger minds can process information faster, but the mature mind can see the meaning behind the information instantly. You have lived through economic cycles, broken relationships, betrayals, and triumphs. Your brain has built a massive library of experiential data. This means your capacity for strategic depth is at its absolute peak. While a 20-year-old is reacting to every wave with anxiety and brute force, the mature mind understands the tides. True personal growth at this stage means stepping out of the role of the foot soldier and into the role of the chess master. You no longer need to outwork everyone with sheer exhaustion. You outthink them with crystallized leverage. Your age is not a liability. It is your unfair competitive advantage. The rejection of social signaling. One of the most exhausting aspects of human behavior in the first half of life is social signaling. Subconsciously, younger adults are trapped in a status game. They buy things they don't need, with money they don't have, to impress people they don't even respect. Their self-worth is entirely outsourced to the opinions of an external audience. But as you pass 40, the psychological tolerance for superficial nonsense drops to absolute zero. From the perspective of developmental psychology, you begin to transition from an external locus of control to an internal locus of control. You realize a cold mathematical truth. Your time ahead is shorter than your time behind. When a resource becomes scarce, you stop wasting it on cheap validation. This is the ultimate catalyst for personal growth. You finally grant yourself permission to fire your audience. You stop people-pleasing. You stop sitting in rooms where you have to wear a mask. You stop pretending to care about the shallow metrics of a society obsessed with appearance. When you master this shift in human behavior psychology, your energy is instantly reclaimed. Think about the massive amount of mental RAM you used to waste worrying about what your peers thought of your career, your house, or your choices. When you redirect that energy inward, your personal evolution accelerates. You no longer build a life to look successful to the world. You build an ecosystem that feels sovereign to your soul. Asterisk, the master strategy of subtraction. Asterisk, in the first half of life, we are taught that growth is about addition. You add more wealth, more connections, more projects, and more responsibilities. Your ego believes that a crowded calendar is proof of a successful life. But true personal growth after 40 requires an absolute inversion of this logic. True mastery in the second half of life is achieved not by what you add, but by what you brutally cut away. The ancient Stoics called this mental pruning. As a mature individual, your life canvas is likely cluttered. You are carrying the weight of old ambitions that no longer serve you. Toxic networks you keep out of old habits, and commitments you sustain purely out of guilt. This is the sunk cost fallacy in action, a major trap in human behavior psychology. The success mindset of the mature mind is based on the strategy of subtraction. You must become a minimalist of your own energy. Look at your life right now with a cold, analytical eye. What are the dead branches that are draining the nutrients from your core trunk? What goals belong to a past version of you that you need to finally bury? By subtracting the noise, the fake friends, and the superficial obligations, you create a hyper-concentrated beam of focus. You don't need to do everything anymore. You only need to do what is essential, deep, and lasting. Youth was about proving you could handle the chaos. Maturity is about having the courage to enforce the silence. Asterisk, if you are standing on the other side of 40, do not let a youth-obsessed culture convince you that your prime is a memory. The laws of human behavior psychology declare that you are exactly where you need to be to build your highest legacy. Your mind is no longer easily manipulated by cheap praise. Your nervous system has been tempered by the fires of reality. You have the wisdom to see through illusions and the strategic patience to play the long game. This is your quiet rebellion. You do not need to shout to be powerful. You do not need the validation of a shallow world to know your worth. You are the sovereign ruler of your internal territory. If this deep dive into human behavior, psychology, and personal growth spoke to your journey today, leave a comment below with the declaration, "My prime is exactly where I stand." Subscribe to the Stoic Mindset Lab for your ongoing mental conditioning. Protect your focus, elevate your depth, and stay stoic. Asterisk.